Assalamu alaikum students. This is my new lecture on the same novel, The Outsider or The Stranger by Albert Camus. And this lecture is continuation of my previous lecture because this novel, The Outsider, is very philosophical novel. And I think that one lecture is not enough to understand that philosophy of Albert Camus. And in my previous lecture, as I have discussed a lot about the life of Albert Camus, because to understand his novel and his philosophy, it is very necessary to understand the biography of Albert Camus. And so I hope that you have listened it carefully, and there are many aspects which are remaining. Um, I want to cover all those aspects in this lecture. So let's start. Students, first of all, I'll start with the significance of title. Um, First of all, I'll discuss the general idea, the word outsider. The the word outsider basically means it refers to an unknown person, a foreigner, or a denizen who has least interest in his surroundings. And his lack of interest, the reason of his lack of interest may be because he is temporarily living here and will go to his native place later. So that is why he has less interaction, less affiliation with the people around him. And secondly, if I'll see the title and then relate that title with the life of Albert Camus, then I'll analyze this title is basically the reflection of the revelation of the life of Albert Camus himself. Because as I told you in my previous lecture, that Albert Camus was also facing the same situation, same absurd situation mm, during World War II. He has the same feeling of strangers to his own land, to his native country, Algeria, which was under French rule, and which was already under the French rule. And during World War II, he supported French, um, rather Germans. So it is very easy to analyze that the binational identity and the poor background of Albert Camus has a significant influence on his writings. And as far as his protagonist, Mozu, is concerned, he is also the reflection of the personality of Albert Camus, because Merzo has no value of relationship, no value of emotions, of sentiments, of care. So he the protagonist also reflects the absurd situation, not only outward but inward as well. So he is not outsider, a stranger to external world, but also for his internal world. And we will observe Mozu as an incarnation of unique qualities. For us, he is like an abnormal person, rather than the member of the social group, the social society, or the social um, normal person in a society. Students, in this slide, I'm going to discuss the important elements which make any character the outsider. For example, Mirza, who is the true representation of the outsider of colonized Algeria. Like Algeria is colonized, Algeria is powerless, alone, a country who is colonized by French, and then in World War II, that again Algeria was under war of Germans. So you will see that people have no authority, people have nothing, no power, but everything is vague. Although the native people, the native Algerian, or are treated like the outsiders. So same is the character with the protagonist Mirza, who is isolated, who is alienated, emotionally detached person, and who is nihilist, who is devoid of every kind of passion, of love, of care, of sentiment. There is nothing in him, and because of his nihilism, and because of his anger and disappointment, uh, his life his life goes toward extreme pessimism, and his life becomes the epitome of pessimism. And he even you will see in the end that he even rejects to confess, and he discarded religious beliefs. So, and this pessimism leads him towards the boredom of life. Like he has no interest in his life, he has no interest in any norm, any value, any culture, even not in any relationship. So we can say that he is a hollow man, as T.S. Eliot um, says in his poem, The Hollow Man. We are hollow men, we are stuffed men. So we'll see that the personality of Mozo is like a stuffed person who has everything in his personality, but without feelings, without care, without association, affiliation. Uh, we feel nothing in him. We feel as if he is only stuffed um, with all the things, all the elements in him, all the traits. But he is truly an incarnation of the unique traits with a hollowness, with hollowness. And like T.S. Eliot also discussed the personality or the traits of a hollow man as the dried voices, the meaninglessness, the violent souls, and same is the condition of Morzo, who has the same meaninglessness and same dried voice, violent souls. Like he has nothing in him, but he has everything. He is a hollow person with without any affiliation, without any association, without any care. So Mozo is truly the outsider of this novel. Okay, students, in this slide, I'm going to discuss the significance of character. Almost all the characters I'll discuss, but here I'll start with the character of Morzo, the protagonist of novel. And uh, I have started analyzing his character with the meaning of his name. In Oxford Dictionary, the meaning of his name is Burgundy wine, and it is quite interesting that the literal meaning uh, is very significant and very relevant with the symbolic interpretation. Like Mozo, uh, all the life of Mozo is like as if a drunken man, in a sense that he has escaped from reality. He has escaped from everything which is unbearable, which is intolerable. for him. And we see that in the effect of wine, people usually speak the truth. And Mozo is the person in the end, like in the beginning and throughout the novel, he is the person who is unable to hide his feeling. Like if he's not feeling bad on the death of his mother, then he is not a hypocrite at that time. He did not hide his real feeling, his genuine feeling, by taking coffee or uh, by anything, by the every action. He used to tell the world that he is not feeling bad um, on the death of his mother. So uh, this this bizarre situation also highlights uh, that the actual feeling uh, of protagonist of Merzo shows the transparency or the honesty or something else. This is a question in my mind uh, because of his actions, because of his behavior. Is this transparency or what is this? Uh, he behaves what he is. Uh, he doesn't hide his actual feeling, his real feeling. So, secondly, to find out the meaning that is in French origin. The meaning of Merzo is of sea and sun, and this is also quite relevant with his personality. He is deep like sea. No one knows the depth of his personality, and he is like sun also, all alone, feelingless, ruthless, and callous person. And this lack of emotional attachment creates a great sense of loneliness and burden in him. He seems to have no place in the world. That is why he has no comprehension of his actions and its consequences. And secondly, sun is an important motif in the novel. It is a symbol of warmth and beauty, and it is very necessary for life. Here in this novel, it represents the inescapable fact of life, that is death. And Sun also shows the oppression of society, the loneliness of Mozo, and also it symbolizes death. And it is very important and very interesting idea of his personality. Students, in this slide, I'm going to discuss every aspect of Mozo's personality. Um, the physical side of Mozo, the spiritual side, the social side, the mental condition, and the mentality of Mozo, and the emotional side. And here I'll discuss every aspect of his personality in detail in the next slides. But here I want to clear only one thing, that the personality of Mozo is basically a bizarre personality. And as I have discussed earlier, that his lack of emotional attachment and his lack of sensitivity, lack of feelings, sentiments, love, care, create a great sense of pessimism in him, a great sense of alienation in him, and he's and he seems the world in a very absurd um, situation, that he doesn't find any place in this world. and what he feels, what he um feels physically, and what he feels spiritually, and what his intentions are, what his social condition is, and what his emotional attachment is. To find out all these aspects, it will helps us in understanding the true personality of the protagonist Mozu. Okay, students, in this slide, I'll discuss one aspect of his personality, that is the physical aspect, the physical belief, um, or the physical idea of the world that Albert Camus as well as his protagonist believe in. As we see that Albert Camus has discussed uh, earlier the idea of physical suicide and philosophical suicide, and this idea I have discussed in my previous lecture. So I'm relating this slide with with this idea, like Albert Camus has discussed the two aspects of suicide. First is philosophical and second is physical. As far as physical suicide is concerned, Albert Camus believes in the retirement or the withdrawal of physical world. For example, if we see that the event of the Salamano beating his dog, and we see that Merzu says that he is feeling the scales on his skin. And in the second event, when Mazu was on beach, and we see that Mazu says that he is feeling that heat on his face, like the sun is slapping him on his face. And in the third event, when we see that Raymond was beating his mistress, then what is the reaction of Mazu? No reaction, not at all. Does Mercer took any step, any notice? No. Even he doesn't say anything bad to Raymond, and he doesn't feel anything bad in his heart. Instead, he helps Raymond to get out of police station. Secondly, when we talk about the philosophical suicide, uh, philosophy is a study of fundamental nature of knowledge, of reality, and of existence. And philosophical suicide means uh, that we are unable to find any rational, any guiding principle in this world. As we know that philosophy is a theory that is based on the guiding principles of behavior, of attitude. So do we find any goodness in the personality of Merzu? No. So we can say that that Merzu commits both suicide, philosophical and physical as well, because we don't see any goodness, any discipline, any rule in his life. But I think that you have one thing in your mind, and you're thinking about that Merzu is a person who is not telling lie in the court, for getting privileges, for getting a favor of the lawyer. But I think it doesn't mean that he is internally good, or he has some soft heart. But I think he was a person uh, we can say that Merzu doesn't want to live in this life. He want to uh, he has no rational approach. He has no specific aim of telling lie, because in previous event we saw that he helps Raymond to get out of police station, and he favors him. But at this time, when he is in court, he thinks that there is no reason of telling lie, and there is no reason. He want to get punishment of his crime because he doesn't find any reason to tell a lie, or he is unable to find any rational answer of his life, any purpose of his life. He consider both life and death equally. So Marzu feels physical world rather emotional. Marzu feels his life as meaningless, having no aim in this world, monotonous world, and he behaved accordingly. So the philosophy of Albert Camus is that man is always fail in his search for meaning in the world, because the world holds no meaning for him to find. Irrational, indifferent world that has no meaning. So that is why Albert Camus believes in the theory of existentialism, but he doesn't want to label him as an existentialist, but he very much favors the philosophy of existentialism that questions life and its purpose. And he, although I think he favors the theory of Jean-Paul Sartre, that says that it is condemned to be free and responsible for his action. That freedom shapes the essence of life and impose meaning on one's life. That it is our morality or essence of life that impose meaning on our life, and we are condemned to be free uh, to solve the enigma of this life, and we are responsible for our own actions. And the thing which is imposed on us is like freedom. We are free, we are condemned to be free, to find out, to solve the enigma, to find out the reason of living. So Albert Camus is a person who focused on the concreteness of human existence, that how a person exists, lives, and defines his essence. uh, Albert Camus is a person who believes in absurdity, rather existentialism. Absurdity means that while a person is living in this world, is always failed in his search for meaning. He is failed because world has no meaning, and meaning will die with life, and the thing which is left is uncaring world. In this slide, we are going to discuss the spiritual element in Morzo, as well as the spiritual element in novel, and in Albert Camus. Basically, in Albert Camus' life, when we find no glimpse of uh, spirituality, then same we are unable to find anything, any spirituality in Marzu's life. As Albert Camus considers himself an atheist, and his lacking interest in religious values paves him to irrational and purposelessness of life, because religion is a fundamental aspect in one's life, because it formulates a rational approach, a disciplined approach towards life. So uh, we see that Albert Camus considers life illogical, senseless, and futile, and that is why um I agree um, upon upon the personality of Marzu is the reflection of Albert Camus' life. and I find some glimpse of autobiography in the novel. Uh, we see that Marzu's life uh, is hollow. Not only the physical aspect, but the spiritual aspect is also hollow. And we find no change in his inward and outward. When in the in towards the end of the novel, when we see that he refuses to accept Chaplin's preaching, and he says that I did not have time to waste in thinking about the things that didn't interest me. We see we we will agree that what Chaplin tells him, that his heart is blind, and we see that in every situation he seems to be contented person. As he says, my life here was not bad at all. So by the end, when he was uh, when um, when he gets punishment, he gets sentenced to death, he doesn't interested in confessing his sins before dying. And this is a big thing, that as if a person is going to die has no regret, no remorse, even no fear of death. Okay, students, as we have discussed his physical and spiritual perspective of life, we can say that Mozo is an absurd man, an absurd but happy man. Being a clerk, he enjoys physical pleasures without caring of societal norms, values, or any culture. And we can see, or we can evaluate, that the novel the outsider or the stranger, that resonates cameo, the idea that is the happiness and the absurd are two sons of the same earth. And uh, we can also evaluate the novel, that it represents Marzu life in two major perspectives, like Marzu in the world, in the society, and after that Marzu in prison. And we can say that Marzu in society acts as a rebel, that he follows no social circle, he follows no societal norms, values, and also there is no aim, no purpose, no status, nothing that admires him, that influences him, that inspires him. So he truly act upon the idea, like, you are born, you live, and then you will die. And he believes that life is meaningless and everyone is going to die anyway. That is why he refuses to see his dead mother's face for the last time. He smokes, and during her funeral, and his inappropriate behavior, as if he is a stranger to his mother. And next morning, when he goes to beach and meets Mary, who is former typist at his office, he spent time uh, with her. And the next day, he accepts an invitation to dinner from Raymond, who helps him to getting back his mistress. And because he says to Raymond that I wanted to satisfy Raymond, as I would not have any reason to satisfy him. Means that he's always in a search of some meaning, some aim, or some idea to answer himself. But he is a person who doesn't uh, who doesn't have any specific logic of anything. For I think he is always in search of why. Uh, he want to answer every question, every question, every statement, that why he'll do so and what is the benefit of it. So Mozo is a person who even does not show any excitement at his boss offer to transfer him to Paris or uh, something. But am very much shocked when I came to know about his response, that he says that I do not care much one way or another. Means he says that that promotion, that transfer will never change one's life, one's present life, and he is happy with his present condition, and he is quite satisfied, and says that this life, this present life suited me quite well. And even his reaction to job promotion is also strange to boss as well as to readers, that he says that uh, he is quite satisfied with the present condition, and that is why his boss tells him that he is lacking ambition in his life, he is lacking any purpose, any ambition, any passion. And without any ambition, any passion, no one can survive in this world. The second part, that is uh, that reveals his personality when he is in prison with the charge of killing an Arab. And during the discussion, the lawyer discussed his callousness at his mother's funeral. During a court proceeding, all his awkward, all his absurd, and his weird attitude is discussed during that court session, that he is a person with no reason to kill an Arab. He is a person with no reason. He fires four more times at the half dead body of that Arab, and he has no reason to believe in God. He has no reason to tell lie about his identity. He has no reason to ask for favors or to ask for forgiveness. Even he has no reason to confess or to regret on his sins. That is why magistrate labels him an anarchist. But we, the readers, we know that he is not an anarchist. He is nothing. Uh, he is nothing. He is neither good nor bad. But he asks himself why about any question, about any incident. But if he answer himself, and if he satisfy himself, then he moves. Then he do that thing. Otherwise, he moves on. In this slide, I'm going to discuss two important characters. First is Mammon and second is Arab. Mammon is the French word which means, if we translate that word in English, that it means mum. As children used to call their mother as mum. So, Mammon is basically uh, a character uh, whose presence is very significant in in this novel, but there is no action, there is no participation, no practical action of this character is there. But we feel that this character makes us uh, possible to understand the mentality, the behavior, or the attitude, or the conflicts which Morzu have. The first thing which I noticed is that by calling her Memon, like mom, it shows some sort of attachment, like mommy, mom, or mother. It's for me a first glimpse of attachment, but the first action, that is of her death. And Morzu gets a telegram from Harbourage for her death, and he attends that funeral in very awkward feeling, in very awkward position. And even the the past of Memon, which the director of Harborage discusses with Marzo that his mother is more happy in Harborage than with him, and she spent a very good time here. That is why that director of Harborage arranges a religious funeral for her. Here, we observe the silent and the passive behavior of Morzo, and we observe that he has not any interest in seeing her face last time. So this is very, very strange behavior. This is very, what we can say, a senseless, detached behavior with his mother. That is why her character is very significant, because it helps us to understand a person like Morzu, who has no feeling for his mother, who has no affiliation even for his mother. Then what else is remaining in the novel? And second character is of Arab. Um the first point which I mentioned here is the shadowy figure. Um, Arab are the colonized one in Algeria, as the other like Berbers, mm, and we can also relate the idea of uh, that is uh, that is of the title of the novel, like the stranger. Arab is also a stranger in that colonized Algerian place, Algerian country. So there, we can say that this is also the idea of Albert Camus, that the colonized people, their voices are effaced, and the colonized are not given the opportunity to tell their own story and describe their own experience. So here Arab have have a very shadowy figure in the novel, but the Arabs tells the story of their personal life, that how they are colonized, how they are living a colonized life in Algeria. There is no specific value, but we can say that the Arab provide a twist in the story, although they do not have any value in the country, but here the Arab provide a twist to the story. Okay, in this slide I want to continue my point, that as I have told you, that Arab is also a stranger, an outsider in the colonized Algerian country, and they have no authority, no power, and they are treated uh, very inferiorly. And we can say that the colonized are not given the opportunity to share their own story and to share their own experience. They are so inferior. They are so um, dehumanized in colonized Algerian country. So here I want to say that the twist in the novel is because of the killing of an Arab. And here I want to add some point that is related to the mistress of Raymond, that it also reveals that the powerful people, the people who have authority, they are also sexualizing uh, the Arab girls, and it is very important factor, very prominent factor in Camus' writing, as we have observed in this novel, The Arab Mistress. It reveals the story of uh, the females, the Arab females uh, in that colonized Algerian country, and how they brutalizes them, and how they rapes them, and how they treats them very violently. And in this novel, the main point or the main action is of killing of an Arab. And as I have discussed before about the personality, about the character of Marzu, that he doesn't think about his own action and its consequences. He do whatever he want to do without any second thought about its consequence. As we have seen that being an Algerian French, he has some flexibility, some privilege that people are there to help him out that prison. And it is very obvious that the crime, the murder of an Arab is not a big crime, is not a big issue. But the main concern, even the main concern of magistrate, is what that he is interrogating the reason of four more fires at the dead body. And because of the that racial discrimination, and they think that Arab is equal to an animal or an insect, but Morzo is sentenced to death of his indifferent behavior, of his callous behavior, of his brutal behavior. Even to prove his callousness, several witnesses are called to reveal truth about his indifferent attitude at his mother's funeral. So the big issue was the behavior of Marzu instead of killing off that Arab.